Hello and welcome back to our Forge modding tutorial series, and today we are going to make our first item. And yeah, let's start. First of all, I will make another package because I want to have everything sorted in the item package. And there I'm going to make a new class. I call that basic item, however you want to call your item. So for the naming conventions, there is your name of the item and then item in, yeah, like that. So Pascal case and nothing else. And that's it. And then I will extend. So I will extend item because that is the base class item. And I need a constructor. Can implement that yourself or just use Eclipse autocompletion. There we need to put in our own properties, and we are quickly going to make a new properties that thing dot, and then we are going to set a default max damage. So it can basically, that is a property that defines the properties of your item. So it has several properties such as the maximum damage your item can take, or the item group it is in, the rarity. So the rarity basically sets the color of the name. So a higher rarity has a different color than a lower rarity. And the item group is pretty obvious. The default maximum damage does mean that you will, so if you use the item, for example, for a certain thing, then you can decrease the damage it has, and if it hits 0, then it will destroy the item basically. So yeah, and I'll set it to 20. I don't know, you can use it or not. What we will do is we will create an item that actually sets diamond blocks underneath you or something. We will sort that out. So it sets item blocks, and it adds experience level to the player when you press right click if you have the item in your hand. And yeah, it makes the player jump. To be honest, like, Jojo did some crazy things again. I will show you later on. But first of all, we want to add a item group, and we have our basic item group class tutorial mod item groups dot group. That is our item group. And then of course the rarity. We set the rarity to epic because it does epic stuff. Like setting diamond blocks is epic, so we will quickly do that. And then we can add some methods. So you can override methods from the basic class, and in that case you have the item class, and there are a lot of methods you can override. Yeah, so for example, you can define a stack limit for the item, so how much it can stack. You can define use action or custom property. A lot of things you can change here. So when it is being destroyed, when it starts breaking, so if you start breaking the block, or when it, I don't know, horse armor take lol on item right click, that is what we want to use because that is the method that is triggered when you right click the item when you got it in hand. So yeah, it defines which hand it is in, so you can check for it is offhand or in the main hand. And then you got the player entity, that is the player that executes the right click, and of course the world. And yeah, we will get the item stack first, because you need to return the item stack in an action result. We can get it if we final item stack. We make a variable that is in the enclosing scope stack equals, and you can get the item stack from the player with get held item, and you need to pass in the hand. So yeah, the player get held item, that is the method, and therefore you get the currently held item stack if you pass in the hand, because you get the hand in where it is executed. And now we can make a, yeah, first of all we're going to set a block. We are going to set a block underneath the player's position. So for that we need to check if we are on the server side or on the client side, because setting a block on the client side can lead to undefined behavior, and we don't want that, so we check that. So isRemote is true when it is a client and false when it is a server. So we will check not isRemote. So if it's not remote, then it is a server world, and now we can set a block. Set you need to get a world, because you will set the block in the world. So world in dot set block stat position is basically we want to place it underneath the player, so we'll need to get the player position, and you do that by using get position from the player you get in the method as parameter, and down is to get the block underneath this position you just got out of this method. So that's basically it, and now we have to define the block state. That's basically the default set of a diamond block dot get default set. This will set the block state to the default state of the diamond block. So now you can do all sorts of things, but that is just an example of what you can do. You can do literally anything here, but we will just mess with the player a bit and add some XP, add experience level. So you can add experience levels to the player by using the method add experience level. You can don't forget to press like CTRL and spacebar, because you get a lot of things you can do here, like a lot of things. Just scroll through the list and try to find something that you want to make. But just as an example, I'll show these things now. So we'll add 5 experience levels, and we will, and now we need to damage the stack, because we don't want it to be used over and over again. We want it to be used 20 times. So if you want the item to have a sort of duration, like for example any tool has, or a sword, something like that, you can define that by, or you can achieve that by damaging the item basically. So stack dot damage attempt damage item. No, it's not. It's stack dot damage item. There we go. Consumer unbroken. So now we need to define how much we want to damage it. So you can, yeah, can have a variety of amounts here, but I will use one, so every time it is used, it will be decreased by 1, the damage. Then the entity, which is actually the player. And then we want to define what happens if we break the item. And for that we use lambda magic again. So that is basically the method thing again. You got the input entity and you can do something with the entity. But we don't want to do anything with it. You can, for example, if you break it, you can give the player a certain effect, or you can not break it but disable the whatever, disable that it works or something. So you can just write code in here if you want to, but I won't do that. And after that, we want the player, want the player to jump. Just for example, I will let a player jump. Another player method, player.jump. There we go. Now the player jumps if you press if you right click the block. Hilarious, but it works. Hopefully. So that is basically it for the item. We did some hilarious stuff in here when you right click the item, but you get the idea, I hope. And now we need to, and that is the actual important thing, we need to register our item. And for that we go into our register class that we did earlier on, and we define our block here. Public static final basic item. I name it basic item equals new basic item. There we go. So don't forget to initialize it, define the variable and initialize it. Pretty easy. Now to actually register the item to the event, we need to get the iForge registry, because that is the actual registry we need to register it to. You will get it. Give me a second. iForge registry item registry equals, and now we can get it from the event.getRegistry. That is it. You can use the method for each, but this is much more to type, so I will make a intermediate variable, so a sort of temporary variable here to make it easier. Now we can just type in registry dot and register, and then we can register our item. Yeah, that's basically the registry and how the registration process works in, I think, 1.13.0 plus, so everything else and above 1.14 and stuff like that. But we need to do something else, because right now our item has no registry name and it needs a registry name. And for that we will set the registry name in here. The mod ID is tutorial mod ID. Glad we did it there. And then we can type in a name. I just call it basic item. That's it. Now we are totally finished. But not. Because it now has no texture. And we want it to have a texture. I already add the texture. That's that one here. I don't know what Jojo did there, but I'll leave it for now. And for that you need to make to put in textures, you need to make this this package here. assets your mod ID here, dot textures dot item for item textures, dot block for block textures, and so forth and so forth. And now that it actually knows which texture to use, we need to make a model. Yes, and for that we need another package, and there we go, new package, and it needs to be your mod ID dot models dot item, and that is another package, and there we will make a JSON file basic item.json. So we need to name the JSON after, basically after what we call it in here in the register name stuff. So this needs to be exactly the same. And then press finish, and now no, go away. And again, if you want to know what JSON is and how JSON works, look it up at json.org. They got pretty nice tutorials and graphics to that. That is pretty well explained. Don't forget the angle brackets, or however they called. And we need to define a parent here. So again, key value pairs, parent is the key and value is item generated. There are much more types for items and blocks as a parent. You can also use a block as parent, but we will get to that later on in the blocks tutorial. Don't forget to put in a comma here, because after every key value pair there needs to be a comma, unless it is the last key value pair. So yeah, and now we define a list, because they are also lists, but they are again key value pairs. So texture is the name of the list, and now angle brackets again. There we go. Now we got a list, so we can define the textures here. And for we only have one texture because we only have one layer, so we call it layer 0. That is the key for the first layer, basically. And now we define our texture here, tutorial mod, and double dot item slash basic underscore item. So don't make a PG in here or something, and no comma here and no comma here. So yeah, that's basically it. Your mod ID, double dots, and then item slash, we're going to get it in an item folder, item slash, and then the name of the file, basic item. Now this should work, but the last thing we want to do is we add a language key. Again, a comma if you got another key value pair, and then we will write the key value pair for the language, basically. So localization item, if you have an item, it is always item dot, and then your mod ID, tutorial mod in my case, and then the name of your item as defined in the register name. So basic item, and a double dot again, and now we define the localized name, basic item. Yay! Now let's test this. So there we are in game. We got our item, it has the name basic item, it is localized, it has a purple color because we defined its rarity as epic. And if we press right click, you see we will jump up and we will create a lot of diamond blocks underneath us. And yeah, if I quickly go in survival, you will see that I have a lot of a lot of levels, and you see we lost our item. That is, yeah, that's basically it. So you lose the item, and you see it is in the item group. And if you're in survival, you will lose the item, and you see the item bar drops down, and it drops down, and it drops down until it is broken. There we are. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Cheers!